Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to offer dana, then please do go to justthiszen.org/giving. Your support really does make a huge difference. Thank you so much.
Good morning. I'm reminded on hearing that verse that a central theme of what I'm sharing in my first two talks is about seeing and listening, having it to see and listen to remember and accept. So specifically seeing and hearing is a thread that will go through the first two talks. So I'm going to start with something from Suzuki Roshi. He said, every existence in nature, every existence in the human world, every cultural work that we create is something which was given or is being given to us, relatively speaking. But as everything is originally one, we are in actuality giving out everything. Moment after moment, we are creating something, and this is the joy of our life. And we've created this retreat out of the fabric of our lives, stitch by stitch. And this retreat is an expression of our abundant offering together, from first conceiving the event in the dark days of November to the full light of day on this morning in May. Moment after moment, we have created something together, and this is the joy of our life. The meal chant says, 72 labours brought us this food. We should know how it comes to us. As we receive this offering, we should consider whether we understand its nature. And the same applies to anything we create, I think. Many, many, many labours brought us this retreat. We should know how it comes to us. As we receive it, we should consider whether we understand its nature. And I think one of the ways of understanding its nature is to think of all the small gifts we have received in just travelling here just before the retreat and in the last 2 days. And I'm aware how challenging it has been for all of us to create this space to be with each other for the week. So some of the people who may have offered something to you in the last few days are the loved one who said, "You really must go." The person who helped you with your case at Paddington Station, who offered you his seat on the train from Bristol to Exeter, who gave you bottles of tinned water at Newport Station, who handed you your halloumi wrap at Gloucester Services, who pointed out your train at Birmingham New Street, who greeted you when you arrived here and said, "Have a cup of tea." In a way, we're all wearing a necklace strung with beads of kindness from at least the last few days. And sometimes when we look at someone's necklace and we go, that's a beautiful bead, and they say, oh, that comes from, I'm sure we can all think of one event, even the smallest event, where something touched your heart and it's become a bead on your necklace today. As part of my journey here, we visited Heathcote Fabrics in Tiverton on Thursday. And we looked it up and we assumed, as it's a haberdashery, it would be a small corner shop in Tiverton. Because usually we often think it's going to be actually quite small. Obviously small is beautiful, but it's something about our anticipation of abundance. And it was a vast, thriving factory with an abundant store with all sorts of weavings.
Dizzying.
It was amazing. It was vast. And there was something about that really touched me, about sometimes my expectation is for something through small mind, and then something opens up to vastness. And it really resonated with this retreat, which is about weaving and fabrics and connection and joy. So, a question for us is, where did you come from to be here today? And a bigger question is, where do you come from? Where do you come from? Where did your journey here really, really start? T.S. Eliot wrote in Little Gidding, if you came this way, taking the route you would be likely to take, from the place you would be likely to come from, if you came this way in Maytime, you would find the hedges white again with voluptuary sweetness. With a voluptuary sweetness. And what you thought you came for is only a shell, a husk of meaning from which the purpose breaks only when it is fulfilled, if at all. Either you had no purpose, or the purpose is beyond the end you figured and is altered in fulfillment. There are other places also at the world's end, some at the sea's jaws, or over a dark lake, or in a desert, or a city, but this is the nearest in place and time, now, and in England. And later in the poem he says, here the intersection of the timeless moment is England and nowhere, never and always. There's a short 3-line poem by Rosemary Wahola Trommer I would like to share with you. It's bless the accordion heart. Whether it opens or closes, it's all a chance to sing. Bless the accordion heart. Whether it opens or closes, it's all a chance to sing. And if you think the way accordion is held, it's right close to your heart. And it kind of breathes with you as you play it, like your heart. So it becomes you, like a rakusu. It's alive with music. And I think I can hear today the music of your heart as you sit here actually your heart wants to sing, it wants to dance. And this accordion heart is actually present for all of us. We're always playing a note. We wear it like the universal teaching. Jigusho Kwong said, "The breath controls the mind, and the mind controls the body. The breath controls the mind, and the mind controls the body." Spencer Cousins said of the wonderful singer and guitarist John Martin that he tuned his strings to yearning. He tuned his strings to yearning. And I wonder, what do we tune our strings to? And how are we attuned and tuning today? We sometimes say, "How are you? How are you?" We could ask, "How are you tuned today?" And perhaps this practice includes allowing this constant, non-interfering returning to ourselves and each other, this constant tuning and attuning to each other. So, I want to talk about two people who have sewn rakusus and their experience of sewing rakusus, and the different way the verse of the robe can be expressed. And for me, it points to something about the way we express this verse of the robe. So the first is by someone called Noelle Oxenhandler. She says, "My rakusu is not made of bits of cloth from the refuse heap, but it arises from a mixture of many things. Gratitude to my teacher and Sangha, but also pride, distrust, and painful memories. As I sew through this mishmash, arranging the strips in their crisscross pattern, stitching the band which will go around my neck, I feel my rakusu opening wider and wider. It is indeed becoming a field. This vastness is expressed in the verse that I will say, like a monk rising at the sound of the bell. Each time I put it on, how great and wondrous is the robe of enlightenment, formless, yet embracing every treasure. I wish to unfold the Buddha's teaching that I may help all living beings. I wish to unfold the Buddha's teaching that I may help all living beings." And the second person is the Zen teacher and priest, Hobby Coben Reagan. And he was a soldier, and he became a priest and teacher. And he says, "Like other young men, I stumbled into death dealing because of poverty, misplaced patriotism, and predatory recruitment practices. It took decades to find my way out. I was 18 on a beach somewhere during a training exercise with another young recruit, a friend. I can still hear the ocean coming in, smell the salt air and diesel, and then suddenly the fresh, open flesh of a human's death. We had just been talking some shit to each other, boyish banter, then something went sideways and he was dead. You don't create karma, you are karma." During the funeral that I led for one member of my military family, I got an idea. I would sew a rakusu from the uniforms of people I'd served with to honour them, but even more to defy the reign of death. I put out a request for uniforms, and within a week I had more than enough material for the 9 times 13-inch rectangle of cloth that serves as an abbreviated kesa, or monastic robe. I had sought to understand war, but war is a koan that cannot be understood. It can only be grasped by those who have lived through it. Isaiah 2:4 speaks of beating swords into plowshares, spears into pruning hooks. So why not turn camo into rakusus? Maybe this rakusu, the robe of the Buddha, can stand for the purgation of suffering, replacing fear, anger, violence and death with hope, wisdom and compassion. And peace of the Tathagata. As the Kesa Sutra, a verse about donning monastic robes, says, O formless robe of great freedom, Kesa of the fields of unlimited happiness, I trust in the Buddha's teaching to liberate all existences. My abbot Richard Collins wrote this on the inside of my camo rakusu when he returned it to me. Wind-blown dust, falling like rain. It was the best possible name for this rakusu. It was the most concise description of war I have ever encountered. Wind-blown rain. Wind-blown dust, falling like rain. Wind-blown dust, falling like rain. It was the best possible name for this rakusu. So last year, we had as our theme the unique breeze of reality. So I just want to return to it because it threads on to the theme of this retreat. And it relates to the sewing of the rakusu. The unique breeze of reality, can you see it? The unique breeze of reality, can you hear it? Continuously creation runs her loom and shuttle, weaving the ancient brocade, incorporating the forms of spring. As the woof goes through the warp, the weave is dense and fine. How can this even be spoken of on the same day as false cause or no cause? At the point of the intersection of timeless with time, timelessness with time, how can this even be spoken of? So a brocade is a richly decorated shuttle-woven fabric, often made in coloured silks and sometimes with gold and silver threads. The warp means that across which the woof is thrown. It is the set of yarns or other things stretched in place on a loom before the woof is introduced during the weaving process. In the manufacture of cloth, warp and woof are the two basic components in weaving to transform thread and yarn into textile fabrics. The vertical warp yarns are held stationary in tension on a loom, a frame, while the horizontal woof yarn is drawn through, inserted over and under the warp thread. I think of this as brocades. We are a warp offering ourselves to the world, offering ourselves to be woofed. And in our life, we weave and we are woven. Like some of the way some of you have sewn your rakusu to bring here. At the same time, your rakusu has woven you. About a week ago we received some rakusus in the post, and they all came in very different cardboard packages, which expressed something about the sender. So the handwriting, shape of the box. It's like we all have a unique envelope that we inhabit. It's like this one belongs to this person, this one belongs to this person. And we all have this unique but common kind of interior sewing. As they arrived that day, I had that thought about the particularity and the generality of how we express this life. About 15 years ago, I received a phone call from a dear friend, Ruth Quinn. Some of you will know her. And she said, "Joshi, I'm going to ask you a favour." She said, "I have a friend I met for a drink last night, and he's making a film about the 12th century mystic, Meister Eckhart." So Meister Eckhart was living around the time of Dogen. And my friend wants to make this film, but he can't find anybody to take on the role of Meister Eckhart. He's looking for someone who's around 60, about 6 feet 1 tall, with no hair, who has a meditation practice, but who can wear the robe. And she said, "I think I might know somebody who could do that." So we started filming in Morecambe Bay, which was the Danube, and we went to the woods of Robendale, which were the Black Forest, and we went to Lancaster Cathedral to film. And one day, during a break in filming, I was walking through a wood in my robe, like this one, and 2 people came towards me, and we said hello. And because I was in role and we were just passing, they were already seeing me wearing this robe, and something was communicated between us. I was playing a role. I was wearing the robe at that time. And it felt very precious, not to be broken. And there was something about that encounter which made me think, there is sewing and there is wearing. There is no sewing without wearing, because otherwise nothing is communicated. And I know sometimes we sew things and it takes a while to get them out, to actually wear the universal teaching. There was something about that moment where communication took place. With regard to the brocade, last year I was really interested in, the structure of it. I've described it, but the first lines are, can you see it? Can you hear it? It's very easy to miss that part because my mind goes to thinking about the brocade and how it's created. But actually, do I really see it? Do I really hear it? And a question that's arisen for me in creating this talk and living with it is something about seeing and hearing, really seeing and hearing. I used to go to football with my father, and for a young person, you just see people running around. You kind of see shapes, and it's rather beautiful, the colours and the sounds. But he used to say, look at number 5. Just look what he's doing. He's doing this, and if you watch, you can see the whole pattern emerge around his team, where he's moving. So he would show me a way of seeing something which I wouldn't otherwise see. I would just see shapes which were very beautiful. But there was something about seeing into the depth of something. And I wonder, in your life, who's helped you see things? Who's helped you go, look at that? Can you see it? Can you hear it? Vanessa Zusai Goddard says, if every moment you could see things as they are, every moment you'd be weeping. You'd be weeping. If I could see more and more clearly, I'd be crying out of sheer joy and wonder, but also out of grief for all I've missed and continue to miss. I'd be on my knees, soul brimming with gratitude and reverence and awe for the astounding, beautiful, terrible reality of it all, for everything I'm blessed enough to see, and for all that's unseen, for all that's unseen. I think of it as a pattern woven through the fabric of the universe. She sees it as a pattern woven through the fabric of the universe. All of us have the sense, she says, though only some of us trust it, and even fewer follow it, that in all the chaos, the general unsettledness of the world, there is a clear image, an orderly pattern that emerges slowly when we grow wholly quiet and wholly still. When we don't rush to fill it in ourselves with our naming, because this is what's required to see the unseen, that we become more and more innocent of certainty and knowledge. We must be willing to not be so sure about who we are, what we're here to do, and why. And we have to let go of the belief that what we can see and touch and name is more real and more relevant than what's not visible. In January, Judy and I went to see a wonderful, immersive David Hockney experience in Manchester. And there was something about his way of seeing things that was really profound and really instructive about looking. There's a book I've been reading called A Bigger Message, Conversations with David Hockney, by a man called Martin Gifford. John Richardson tells Martin Gifford a story about Picasso. Lucien Clerc, the photographer, knew Picasso incredibly well. The other day he said to me, "You know, Picasso saved my life." I said, "What?" He said, "Yes. It was after a bullfight in Arles. Lucien said he had been feeling fine and lost a bit of weight but wasn't worried. Out of the blue, Picasso said to him, 'You go instantly to a hospital.' Lucien asked, 'Why?' Picasso said, 'You've got something seriously wrong with you.' Lucien was damned if he was going to do it. But Jacqueline, Picasso's wife, added, 'When Pablo says that, for God's sake, go.' So he went, and the doctors had him taken straight to the operating theatre. They said he had an extremely rare type of peritonitis, which is lethal. The bad thing about it, it doesn't manifest itself in pain. It just kills you." David Hockney responded and said, "He must have seen something, most likely in Clerc's face. Picasso must have looked at more faces than anybody. He would have been thinking, how would you draw it? Most people don't look at a face too long. They tend to look away. But you do if you are painting a portrait. Rembrandt put more into the face than anyone before or since, because he saw more. That was the eye and the heart." David Hockney goes on, "I was driving somewhere up here, and I asked them what colour was the road. They didn't answer. 10 minutes later, I asked the same question, and they saw it was different. Later they said, 'I'd never thought about what colour the road was. Frankly, unless you ask the question, it's just road colour. You have to look and ask questions about what you are seeing all the time. Vanessa Goddard again. At the beginning of every retreat, at the Zen monastery where I trained, one of the monitors would always say, please turn off your cell phones so you can really enter the cloister of the monastery. They could also have said, so you can enter the cloister in your mind. She explains that the Latin claustrum means enclosure, a space that's sealed off from others, shut in. In a convent or a monastery, it refers to a covered walkway that separates the monks and nuns from the lay people and the workers who tend the needs of the community. There is also a small area in the brain called the claustrum, and one of its functions, neuroscientists speculate, is to integrate the information the brain receives from the senses in the form of motor, visual and auditory cues and put it together to form a full picture, somewhat like the conductor of an orchestra interprets the score, fine-tuning each instrument's tempo, volume or articulation to deliver a coherent musical piece to an audience. Tuning the strings. She goes on to say that part of this work requires that we narrow our attention by sealing off from our awareness anything extraneous to the experience, and this is also the job of the claustrum. As you hear these words, and in a moment I pause, what do you hear? Perhaps one bird singing in the whole orchestra of birdsong, or you may be attending to what you see in this room, perhaps the shifting light, or what you glimpse around the room, the fragment of a tree swaying outside. By choosing to focus on just one of the many inputs that are bombarding and meeting your senses, perhaps the birdsong, the claustrum is working to shut out of your mind everything else. In this way, you can see more clearly, more completely, what's right in front of you. And if you choose to go further, what's underneath, the signs of the unseen. So during these precious days together, may you be blessed to hear and see more completely what's right here and what's underneath in this wonderful place and in your beautiful heart that yearns to sing during this time. Bless the accordion heart, whether it opens or closes. It's all a chance to sing. And before I hand over to Flint, I'm going to quote one of the things that he quoted from Suzuki Roshi yesterday. I don't know anything about consciousness. I just try to teach my students how to hear the birds sing.
You're handing over to me? Oh. Josh invited, that's why we switched a little bit, we'll be doing this, invited to sit alongside and weave the brocade. I don't know which one is the wolf and the wart, but to weave together. But as he was weaving the pattern, you hear certain things about the Dharma, you hear certain things about practice, but you also, I think, see the pattern of Josh's heart and mind. And that's a lot of what you're seeing. He's using what he thinks about, what he practices with, what he's read, what's stimulated him and inspired him. But what you end up seeing when any of us talk, I think, is the way our mind and heart is moving with these things. And hopefully it will set up a resonance which is another thing you were talking about. Inside of you, sometimes more times than others. And that's what I think that's what a Dharma talk is about, to be and to set up a resonance, like a tuning fork. Is that we were just speaking about this this morning, if it's okay for me to say, maybe this sense of the same, the connection of sameness in us, even though each is quite unique. It was, I can't remember what it was, there was part that you were talking about, oh gosh, about each person. I can't remember at all what the story was. I can tell you what the resonance got set up though. I had the most extraordinary experience coming here, an unlikely moment, a little wakeful moment, in the midst of ordinary things is where it usually happens. I don't know about you, but any kind of little insights or openings doesn't usually happen in here. We practice in here, but then it happens, somewhere else. We think sitting on the cushion and doing this stuff is like the most boring thing. But if you don't do it, the other things don't happen. It's very unusual. But this was, I think, a combination of jet lag and chaos and grief. And I was walking down one of those large corridors, at Heathrow. And I happened to be walking along with some people, but there were equal number of people coming at me. You know how it is when they stream by. And I was in kind of an unusual state, having gotten off the plane and trying to live with what I'm living with. And I've been reading and studying a little bit. The weird thing about planes for me is that it's the only time I'm by myself. Oh, I'm not by myself, but it's the only time that's like the monastery. Because nobody can get to me. No one's asking me anything. I'm just in this no place, no time. And it's some of the deepest time I have, oddly. So I got off the plane and I'm walking and these people are streaming towards me and I'm thinking about life and death and me and Aaron and all this. And suddenly everyone looked completely different. All I saw was all of these people are dying. And as they attempt to cope with that reality, they look like this. They look like that one and this one and that, and the shape and the karma that they are, that's how they're not dying and their dying looks like. Does it make any sense? Mm-hmm. And I began to feel an immense compassion for each person as they went along, not noticing. Not that I was better, but you know what I mean, but just doing ordinary life. And so suddenly it became beautiful instead of Heathrow. It really was, because there were all these beautiful, precious, fragile, limited beings streaming past me. And it didn't last for a long time, but it did for a while. So something had set up that kind of resonance so that it's like the guys in war. Something opens because of the particular tension of that moment or that time. And hopefully this happens in us too, and we see what we see at that moment. I was seeing that this was was happening in me, of course. Just like the talk. What you're seeing is something that's happening in Josh, or me, or Trudy, at this time, and we hope it invites something in you as we wear the teachings and we feel our bodies realizing the one true nature and harmonizing our being. The end of that chant doesn't say harmonizing all beings. It says harmonizing all being. Anything you want to add?
No.
Just checking. I think that's about it.
Oh, I do.
There we go. Yeah.
I do. When we were talking to some of the people who aren't with us, can't be with us, won't be with us, we were reflecting on Vimalakirti's sutra, where there's part of it is a 10 by 10 room where Sikh Vimalakirti is, and somehow into this room all beings, devas, goddesses, bodhisattvas come and sit, and
32,000.
32,000. So we really wanted to include everybody, because of course they are. Everybody who's not here is here. They're here in our thoughts and our memories, and some of them are actually here in some of the things they've sent. So we have kind of fragments of them, but we also have our deep connections and love. So we have Vimalakirti's chair, which is here for all the people who can't be with us today. And I would really invite you all to bring anybody you need to bring, because they will be sitting with us. We probably can't see them and we may not believe it, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't actually matter what you believe. They're here, and they're here to support our practice, the spirit of our practice.
Can you mention the altar as well, Trudy, in that concept?
So we have a more direct thing with our little pieces of paper on, and those are to bring to mind anybody who you want to be sending warmth, love, to remember. They can be people who've dropped their bodies and are no longer with us, but they can also be people that we just want to hold in care. So there's something about that mysterious other. You know, we think we're here, we think we're in this body, and maybe we think we're alone. How delightfully stupid we are. And so it's just to keep reminding ourselves that we're just not.
And I think that's the importance of having the chair in the circle. We certainly have things on the altar, but the chair is in the circle. And someday you'll be in the chair.
Yeah.
But always in the circle.
In the Wiccan tradition that I used to practice in, at the end of our meetings, we would say, you know, the circle is open but unbroken. May the peace of the goddess go in your hearts. And there is something about that. It's open, but it's never broken. And it would be really useful, maybe, as when we're doing kinhin, is to think, I too will be on that chair someday. I won't be here. And right now we are.